Corbin Sinclair's voice was an arrogant hiss, a sound accustomed to never hearing the word no. "I don't know what your game is, Mercer, but it ends here." Arden Mercer was motionless, her back pressed against the cold concrete of a retaining wall. Mud caked her boots and the freezing rain plastered her hair to her face, but her eyes showed no fear. They showed only a disturbing, unfathomable calm. Around them, the laughter of the other recruits had turned into a cruel murmur, the sound of a pack that has isolated its prey. They were in the middle of the course's toughest exercise, the eye of the storm, but the only storm that mattered in that moment was the one about to break between the two of them. How had it come to this? How had a woman who seemed to have stumbled there by mistake become the lightning rod for the arrogance of an entire generation of elite soldiers? To understand that, we have to rewind the tape a few weeks. To the very beginning of it all. But wait. Before we go back, drop a comment below and let us know what city you're listening from. It's incredible to see how far our stories travel and where our community comes from. And if this atmosphere has already grabbed you, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It's just one click for you, but for us, it's the fuel that keeps us going. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And now, get ready. The story is about to begin. It all began with the screech of a public bus's brakes. Not a military vehicle, not a luxury car. A coach bus that stopped before the gates of the Graves Blackwood Advanced Warfare Center, a fortress of glass and steel nestled between isolated mountains. And from it, Arden Mercer stepped out. She wasn't wearing a uniform. She had a pair of faded jeans, a coarse wool sweater, and a military duffel bag so obsolete it looked like a museum piece, mended in several places. The other recruits, already assembled in the courtyard, looked like clones from a tactical gear catalog. Their gazes, heavy with condescension, fell upon her. Serafina Sinclair, whose family owned an industrial empire, muttered to her neighbor, "Have they lowered the admission standards this much?" Her brother, Corbin Apex Sinclair, didn't even deign to look at her. He just sneered. To him, Arden Mercer wasn't a threat, nor a competitor. She was a system error. A shadow destined to dissolve after the first week. The days that followed were a methodical exercise in cruelty. Arden became the invisible target of every petty torment. She was assigned the worst equipment, her rations would disappear, she was constantly pushed to the back of the line. During an obstacle course in the mud, Corbin tripped her so blatantly that the instructor himself, Gunnery Sergeant Killian Rourke, had to turn away to pretend he hadn't seen it. Arden fell face first into the freezing water. The group laughed. She got back up, without a word, without a complaint, and kept running, with a determination more terrifying than any scream of rage. In that moment, only one recruit, Hazel Grant, discreetly offered her a canteen. A silent gesture, ignored by everyone else. But amidst this contempt, cracks began to appear. Small, almost imperceptible sparks of a hidden fire. The first spark ignited in a dark hangar, during a test called the Surgeon's Touch. The recruits had to disassemble and reassemble their service pistols, blindfolded. The darkness was broken only by muffled curses and the metallic clatter of falling parts. Then, a different sound. A rhythmic, fluid, almost musical click-clack. From the monitors, Rourke zoomed in on Arden's station. Her hands moved like those of a watchmaker, a dance of fingers that knew every millimeter of that weapon as if it were an extension of her own body. She finished in a time that seemed impossible. Rourke shook his head. A fluke. It had to be. The second spark flared in a strategy classroom. The room fell into a dead silence as Arden, in a calm voice, outlined a counter-strategy that wasn't written in any manual. A maneuver based on the psychology of the adversary, on the use of silence and urban corridors that everyone else had ignored. A plan that not only saved all the hostages but captured the enemy leader alive. A pure hatred burned in Serafina's eyes. Even Rourke, for the first time, was at a loss for words. Arden's plan wasn't good. It was brilliant. And for that reason, it was terrifying. And this brings us back to that moment, in the mud, under the rain, with Corbin's breath on her face. His arrogance, fueled by the humiliation his sister had suffered in the classroom, had exploded. He grabbed her by the collar of her jacket, slamming her against the wall. "Your little show ends here." That abrupt movement pushed her hair aside, exposing for an instant a small patch of skin behind her right ear. It wasn't a tattoo. It was something much older. a brand. 3 thin, pearly white lines, seared into the skin to form the stylized talon of a raven. Most of the recruits didn't notice it. But from an elevated walkway, Commander Alistair Graves was watching the scene through military binoculars. His breath caught in his throat. His hands that had stood up to dictators and terrorists, trembled. He let the binoculars fall, where they hung from his neck, and muttered a single word, a word that was lost in the wind but changed the destiny of everyone present. Impossible. That wasn't a tattoo. It was the brand that was seared into the skin of the very few who survived the crucible. A phantom facility, a dark legend, a place that took the best soldiers in the world and fused them in extreme temperatures, purifying them until they became something else. Whoever came out was no longer a soldier. They were a phantom. And the Raven's brand was the sigil of its master, a legend known only as Silas Blackwood, the Warden. The keeper of that infernal place. Down below, in the courtyard, Corbin didn't understand why the world had suddenly fallen silent. Feeling only the need to reassert his dominance, he charged. Arden's move wasn't a reaction. It was a lesson. In physics. With 3 fluid, almost imperceptible movements, a parry that deflected Corbin's punch, a joint lock on his elbow, and an unbalancing of his center of gravity, she put him on the ground. Helpless. Without having thrown a single punch. Without having changed her expression. At that moment, Commander Graves descended into the drill square. The recruits parted like water before a ship. He ignored Corbin on the ground. He ignored Rourke. He stopped in front of Arden and, in a tone of deep and shaken respect, said, "My apologies, Cadet. I was not informed that the Warden had sent one of his phantoms to play with us." The name Warden and the word phantom rang out across the courtyard like a death sentence for the arrogance of everyone there. Corbin was dismissed from the course that very evening. Serafina was expelled a week later for an infraction that, until the day before, would have been ignored. The others, the ones who had laughed, now lowered their eyes when Arden passed. Not out of fear. Out of shame. Arden Mercer completed the course. She did not become an instructor. She gave no speeches. She remained a phantom. At the graduation ceremony, as everyone's name was called, hers was not spoken. At the end, while the others celebrated, a single, unmarked black car pulled up at the edge of the field. The back window rolled down, revealing the face of Silas Blackwood, an old man with eyes that had seen too much. The Warden. He gave her a curt nod. "The job is done, Arden. Let's go home." She got in the car and vanished, leaving behind only silence and a legend. The story of Arden Mercer isn't just the chronicle of a military training. It's a mirror to a truth we often forget. True value doesn't need to be displayed, nor does true strength need to scream to be heard. Too often we judge a book by its cover, a person by the clothes they wear or the words they don't say. Arrogance makes a lot of noise to hide the void. Competence, on the other hand, thrives in silence. Arden didn't seek revenge. She simply allowed the truth to emerge. She proved that, in the end, substance always defeats appearance. And now I want to hear from you. Have you ever been underestimated, judged only by your appearance, only to prove everyone wrong? Or have you ever witnessed a scene where someone quietly overturned everyone's expectations? Share your experience in the comments. We read and appreciate every single story. If this story moved you and you think its message is important, leave a like and share it with anyone who needs to be reminded that real strength doesn't make a sound. Subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss other stories that dig deep, beyond the surface. Thank you for making it to the end. Your support is our greatest reward. And remember, respect isn't demanded. It's commanded in silence. Until next time.